Hello. You are in a drop pod falling through the stratosphere of trivia, sailing the sea of claws in a ship made of knowledge, passing through realm gates into countless lands of history and secret minutiae. Or maybe you don't even know what a squidgen is. Whatever the case, I'm Jordan, this is Jordan Sorcery, and it's time once again for the hardest Games Workshop quiz there is. It's time for Quizhammer. The channel recently hit 10,000 subscribers, and I promised that as a thank you, I would record a new episode of Quizhammer when it did. And that, my friends, is what you behold in your eyes right now. If you didn't partake in the first episode of Quizhammer, this is a tough quiz about the history of Games Workshop games and their lore. I've refined the rules just a little bit for this one, so before we get started, I'll just go through them. The first rule is the same as last time. Please do not share any answers in the comments below. That is just so that other viewers can take part in the quiz as well without being spoiled on any of the questions. There are going to be 4 rounds in this edition. The first round is on Warhammer Fantasy, the second round is on General Games Workshop, the third round is 40k. All 3 of those rounds will be multiple choice. You'll have 10 seconds to choose your answer from the 4 options once I have read them out, and then I'll move on to the next question. The final round is the impossible round. These are even tougher questions, and there are no multiple choice options. You are on your own for those ones. You'll still have 10 seconds to go once I've read out the question. Then at the end, in case you're playing with friends or having a bit of a competition, there's also going to be a tiebreaker. You'll have 10 seconds to get your answer down for that one as well. I will read all of the answers to the questions at the very end, so we'll go through all of the rounds first, then all of the answers. I will also include on-screen static answers at the very end of the video, and I'll put timecode stamps in the description so you can jump straight to those if you want to just read them rather than listen to me go through them. Okay, grab your pens and your papers, open your notes app, access your Imperial Memory Palace. You go, Gwavessa. It's time for Quizhammer. As is customary, we're going to start this quiz with round 1, and this round is on Warhammer Fantasy. So, question 1. If you found yourself in the Black Fortress, you would be in what region of the Old World? Nagaroth, Sylvania, the Darklands, Lustria. Question 2. Duke Cassian rules over which Bretonnian dukedom in the Grey Mountains that is famed for its Pegasus Knights? Paravon, Montfort, Lyonesse, Arthurville. Question 3. The Warhammer world has 2 moons. One is called Mansleib, named for the god of the sea. The second is named for the god of the dead. But what is it called? Morsleib, 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 or Morsleib? Question 4. Khemri is the largest and oldest city in Hekara, land of the Tomb Kings. But what does its name actually mean? City of the Dead, City of Blood, City of the Ancients, or City of Kings? Question 5. Which of these 40k inhabitants have never appeared in Warhammer Fantasy lore? The Amble, the Zote, the Urgul, the Slani. Question 6. Which one of these Warhammer supplement titles has been used for the fewest separate products or releases? Warhammer Siege, Warhammer Armies Undead, Ravening Hordes, Warhammer armies, the Empire. Question 7. There have been 5 Warhammer Fantasy starter boxes over the years, but how many of those have featured a greenskins army? So, any kind of orc and or goblin army. 1, 2, 3, or 4? Question 8. Which of these is not a dwarf hold or fortress? Karaz a Karak, Zufbar, Karak Zorn, Lothlak. Question 9. Which artist illustrated this cover? John Blanche, Jez Goodwin, Colin Dixon, Chris Achilleos. And question 10. Which character is reputed to have the most grudges recorded against them in the Damaz Chron, the Great Book of Grudges? Skarsnik, Nagash, Tyrion, or Sea Lord Aisling? Okay, well done. That was round 1 complete. Now it's time for round 2, General Games Workshop Knowledge. Question 11. The Black Leviathan was an entity that would harass fleets in which naval wargame? Space Fleet, Man o' War, Battlefleet Gothic, Dreadfleet. Question 12. Which of these games was released by GW first? Judge Dredd RPG, Rogue Trader, Dark Future, Chaos Marauders. Question 13. The first edition of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay features the Epic Enemy Within campaign, but what is its concluding volume called? Empire in Ruins, Empire in Flames, Empire in Agony, or Empire Indisposed? Question 14. In the game Space Hulk, the acronym CAT in CAT Unit stands for what? Cyber Altered Task Unit, Controlled Additional Terminator Unit, Cadian Autonomous Tracking Unit, Comprehensive Alarm Tingler Unit. Question 15. Which developer was responsible for the 1995 PC classic Warhammer Shadow of the Horned Rat? Eidos, Mindscape, Creative Assembly, Strategic Simulations. Question 16. In Age of Sigmar, the Idoneth Deepkin were remade by Teclis after their souls were rescued from the bowels of which chaos god? Nurgle, Khorne, the Horned Rat, Slaanesh. Question 17. Which of these Balrog miniature sets was released first? Battle at Khazad-dûm, Mighty Angor, the gigantic Balrog Slayer of the Gods, Golgoth, Lord of Balrogs, Encounter at Khazad-dûm. Question 18. Which of these RPGs has never been published by Games Workshop? Dungeons and Dragons, Call of Cthulhu, RuneQuest, Shadowrun. Question 19. If you were given this Idaho Smith character, what GW game would you be playing? Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, Fury of Dracula, Inquisitor, Cosmic Encounter. And question 20. In what year was the first issue of White Dwarf published? 1971, 1975, 1977, or 1979? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Well done. You have completed round 2. Now it's time for round 3, the 40k round. Question 21. Eldar Harlequins worship the Laughing God, or so-called First Fool. But what other name is this god known as in the Eldar language? Kogorak, Riletan, Asuran, Slanesh. Question 22. The Summer Events series saw many global campaigns that fans could participate in, but which one of these was not one of them? The Third War for Armageddon, the Fall of Medusa 5, the Battle of Icar 4, the Fight for Crossworlds. Question 23. Which one of these was not a supplement released for the first edition of the game? Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader. Here we go. Warhammer 40,000 Compilation, Warhammer 40,000 Compendium, Warhammer 40,000 Collection. Question 24. What year was the first ever Dark Eldar Codex released? 1989, 1998, 2001, or 2005? Question 25. Which of these characters does not feature in Ian Watson's Inquisitor trilogy? Orfeo, Draco, Melindi, Grimm. Question 26. In Orc society, the clan of orcs who typically shun technology and prefer to ride into battle on boars is called freebooters, goths, blood axes, snakebites. Question 27. In the 41st millennium, what are Jormungandr, Naga, and Ouroboros? Hive fleets, Drukhari cities, Imperial Navy battlecruisers, Tau Septs. Question 28. Which of these is not an inquisitorial faction in the Imperium? Thorians, Monodominants, Amalathians, Black Dracothians. Question 29. Which artist created this cover? John Sibbick, John Blanche, Tony Ackland, Tony Roberts. And question 30. In which gamebook were the Grey Knights first introduced into 40k lore? Rogue Trader, Realm of Chaos Slaves to Darkness, Realm of Chaos the Lost and the Damned, Warhammer Siege. Okay, you have done very well so far, but this is the most infamous of rounds. Round number 4, the impossible round. There are no multiple choice options here, so you are going to have to go with your gut or do a deal with Tzeentch. Right, question 31. In 1996, Games Workshop celebrated the 25th anniversary of Games Day with the creation of a short film set in the world of 40k. The film was called Inquisitor. But what was the name of the Dark Angels captain that helped Inquisitor Krieger in the film? Question 32. In the 3rd edition of Warhammer Fantasy, how many snotlings could you get for 100 points? Question 33. What was the name for the first ever White Dwarf battle report? Question 34. Which dwarf runesmith forged the Runefang swords possessed by each of the Empire's Elector Counts? Question 35. Battle for Armageddon, Doom of the Eldar, and Horus Heresy were all part of a series of board games released in the early 90s by Games Workshop. What was that series called? Question 36. What is the name in High Gothic for the Eye of Terror? Question 37. Between 2003 and 2008, Black Library ran a publishing imprint responsible for cult and tie-in fiction like Jason X, the official movie novelization, 10 Final Destination novels, and the new Dark Future novels. What was that imprint called? Question 38. What was the name of the power maul that was gifted to Horus by the Emperor when he ascended to become War Master? Question 39. To which 1980 board game does this cover belong? And here we go. Question 40. How many full Army Codex books were released separately for the 8th edition of 40k? Right, that was all of the standard and impossible questions, but here is a tiebreaker in case you are competing with friends. So, the Realm of Chaos Slaves to Darkness book features a D1000 table for randomizing dominant chaos attributes. Please tell me, what result on that table would you need to roll in order to get a silly walk? There is actually a 15-point range here, so you've got a good chance of getting this. Right? Okay, that was all of your questions. I hope you've got your answers written down because now it's time for the answers. We're going to start, of course, with round 1, Warhammer Fantasy. Let's find out who was what and whence. Question 1. If you found yourself in the Black Fortress, you would be in the Darklands, the bleak, cheerless, inhospitable, very hat-spittable home of the Chaos Dwarves. Question 2. Duke Cassian rules over the Bretonnian dukedom of Paravon, a place famed for Pegasus Knights, countless birds, and a very weird gardener. Question 3. The other moon of the known world is called Morsleeb, named for Mor, god of the dead, and that is spelled M-O-R-R. So, I hope that you got that one right. I couldn't have been clearer about it. Question 4. The ageless city of Khemri is so named because it is the city of kings. Question 5. There have been plenty of weird crossovers in the 40k universe, so the ones that have made their way into fantasy are the Amble in a White Dwarf Warhammer Fantasy roleplay adventure, Zotes in many different things, including the Storm of Magic book, and of course the spacefaring Slanny or Slan. Well, they're all over the shop really, but the people of the known world are very lucky because they have never had to encounter an Urgle, because you would not want to, I don't think. Question 6. There have been 2 Warhammer Siege books, 4 Empire Armies books, a book and a booklet called Ravening Hordes, but there has only actually been 1 Warhammer Armies Undead book. Question 7. The 4th edition starter was High Elves versus Goblins. The 5th edition was Bretonnians versus Lizardmen. For 6th edition, it was Empire versus Orcs. For 7th edition, the starter included Dwarves versus Night Goblins, and the final starter box for 8th edition was High Elves versus Skaven. So that means that there have been 3 greenskin armies in all of those different Warhammer Fantasy starter boxes. Question 8. Lothlak is not a dwarf hold or fortress. It is in fact an abandoned elven colony in the wastelands near Marienburg that's visited by Gotrek. Question 9. Ravening Hordes, published as a collection of army lists for Warhammer 3rd edition, featured cover art by Chris Achilleos. And question 10, allegedly, according to the Lexicanum at least, the character with the most grudges recorded against them was unsurprisingly Skarsnik. He just kept on sending rubbish memes in the Carrick 8 Peaks Discord, I think. Okay, that was round 1. I hope that you're on 10 out of 10, but don't worry if you're not because we've got many more answers coming. This is round 2, General GW Knowledge. Question 11. The Black Leviathan was an enormous sea creature that featured in the game Man o' War from the Seas of Blood expansion. Question 12. In reverse chronological order, Games Workshop released Dark Future in 1988, the card game Chaos Marauders in 1987, and Rogue Trader the same year, and the Judge Dredd RPG was released in 1985. There is a Richard Halliwell supplement for that game called The Slaughter Margin, which is just a sublime name, I think. Question 13. The first edition of the Enemy Within campaign concludes with Empire in Flames. The recent Cubicle 7 update changed the name to Empire in Ruins, but I wanted the first edition title. Question 14. In the game of Space Hulk, the acronym CAT stands for Cyber Altered Task Unit. In question 15. The greatest digital expression of Warhammer in history, Shadow of the Horned Rat, was developed by Mindscape. I'm pretty sure this game single-handedly changed the way that generations of players see Warhammer. It's an incredible game, never beaten, no one's ever done an RTS that's as good. That's just a fact, I'm sorry, we all know it. Okay, I take it back, don't jump on me in the comments. Question 16. The good god Teclis was responsible for reclaiming the souls of the Ideneth from that naughty elf eater, Slanesh. Okay, question 17. The battle at Khazad Dûm set features a brilliant Balrog, but it is the most recent of the sets released. Encounter at Khazad Dûm was released in 1987, and 2 years earlier than that, the mighty Angor Gigantic Balrog, Slayer of Gods, was released. That was 1985. So the earliest Balrog of the four was Golgoth, Lord of Balrogs, as sculpted by Tony Ackland and released in 1984. Okay, question 18. In the early days, Games Workshop printed their own editions of Dungeons & Dragons, Call of Cthulhu, and RuneQuest. So they have never published an edition of Shadowrun, yet at least. Question 19. The character of Idaho Smith is from the game Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. For some reason, I really want Idaho Smith to be Duncan Idaho's brother, but doesn't make any sense at all. It's his dad. Question 20. The year that the first issue of White Dwarf was published in was 1977. It came out in June, July, an important year for sci-fi, because that's also the year that James Brolin fought a car. Okay, 2 rounds down, 2 more to go. This is round 3, the 40k round. Question 21. Eldar Harlequins worship the first fool, the so-called laughing god, who is also known as Sorgarak. I've put it on screen. The god of deception, creativity, artists, trickery, and pronunciation. Question 22. There were loads of global campaigns held in the early 2000s. Players got to fight their own battles and submit their results through White Dwarf or through the website later on, and then that influenced the story. It was very cool. Unfortunately, the fight for Crossworlds was not one of those global campaigns. It's actually a super cool Rutger Hauer film that's basically about sliders. Well worth a look if you have a lot of time to waste and don't like films. But I enjoyed it. There's a bit in the elevator that's really cool. Question 13. Rogue Trader saw several supplements about orcs. So one of those was Here We Go. The second of those released. There was also a Warhammer 40,000 compilation and a Warhammer 40,000 compendium. There was not ever an official Warhammer 40,000 collection book though. 24. The Beastie Boys went intergalactic. Aerosmith didn't want to miss a thing, and the Goo Goo Dolls just simply irised. Because it was 1998 and the first ever Dark Eldar Codex was released, it told us everything we needed to know about the world's worst party guests. 25. Ian Watson's Inquisition War books, they are famed for their unique take on an early 40k universe. They follow Inquisitor Draco, his squat friend Grim, and the Kaladas assassin Malindi. Orfeo is not in those books. He is actually from a trilogy of Warhammer Fantasy novels. Question 26. In Orc Society, the clans of orcs who typically shun technology and ride into battle on boars, they are called the Snakebites. Goths are often the biggest, toughest lads. Blood Axes are mostly the sneakiest commando lads. And Freebooters, well, they are a law unto themselves. They are pirate lads, mostly. Question 27. In the 40k universe, if you were to encounter Jormungandr, Naga, and Ouroboros, you would be having a very bad day because they are all hive fleets. Jormungandr was destroyed at the Battle of the Black Nebula, Naga consumed a great deal of Eldar biomass before being destroyed, and Ouroboros hive fleet was encountered near the Eye of Terror. Question 28. The game Inquisitor added a great deal of nuance to the Inquisition, so now we know that there are many factions with different beliefs vying for control. Of the 4 options presented, the Black Dracothians were not one of those factions. That is because they are in fact a storm host of Stormcast from Age of Sigmar. Question 29. The chapter-approved Book of the Astronomicon cover was created by Tony Roberts. And question 30. Those pesky Grey Knights, they've been in the 40k universe the whole time. They were in the first edition of the game, the Rogue Trader book itself. Though at the time they were just listed as a pretty standard chapter of Space Marines who happened to be super into demon hunting. So that is our first 3 rounds done. I hope that you're doing well, because this is the impossible round. I would love to know how many questions people get right here. Some of these questions I think people would get. Some of these I think they are tough. So let's find out. The Inquisitor movie from 1996 Games Workshop created something really, really special. I thoroughly recommend you check it out. I think it's on YouTube. It's great fun. It's very silly. At the time, our minds were blown. If you've never seen it, just give it a watch, because you will get to meet the very dashing Captain Darius. Question 32. In the 3rd edition of Warhammer Fantasy, you would get 9 Snotlings on a single base, and it would cost you 25 points per base. So for 100 points, you would get 4 bases, 36 total Snotlings. Fantastic horde, could destroy anything, absolutely. Question 33. The first ever White Dwarf battle report, that was called 24 Hours at Carrick Mound. It was actually in White Dwarf 107, and it was a charity event run by Robin Dews, who submitted it before he even worked at White Dwarf. He would later go on to become the editor of the magazine. Question 34. It was the dwarf runesmith Alaric the Mad who forged the Runefang swords for the Empire's Elector Counts. Alaric, perhaps the greatest runesmith of any age, was also responsible for the creation of the Nemesis crown. So it's basically the Warhammer's One Ring. Maybe calling him the greatest runesmith is a mistake. He's got a dodgy track record. Question 35. On the box for the Battle for Armageddon, on the box for Doom of the Eldar and Horus Heresy, you would find a neat little logo for the War Game series. The White Dwarf 161 issue minigame Warmaster was also part of the series. The War Game series. It was a cool little series of games that were war games, but they had a million tokens in them, and you would lose most of those tokens after the first playthrough. So they were great, but getting hold of a complete set's very hard now. Question 36. In High Gothic, the name for the Eye of Terror is Ocularis Terribilis Anathema Non Plus Ultra. But if you just say Oculus Terribilis, you can have that point, because that's the sort of core bit. Question 37. The short-lived Black Library imprint that was responsible for Jason X, Final Destination, Dark Future 2000 AD, and Twilight Zone books was called Black Flame. Okay, question 38. The Emperor forged and gifted a Power Maul to Horus for his Warmaster Day, and it was called Worldbreaker. Question 39. The game is called Warlock. It's about dueling wizards. I've never played it, but it looks very cool. At least the cover art is amazing. And question 40. By my count, there were a total of 25 full Codex books released for 8th edition of 40k. Okay. And then the tiebreaker. Let's wrap this up. In Realm of Chaos Slaves to Darkness, the D1000 table for randomizing chaos mutations would give you the result of a silly walk if you got between 801 and 815. The silly walk, if you're wondering, the rules are the majority of the unit have extremely odd walks, hopping, taking ridiculously short steps, bouncing from side to side, taking several steps forward and back, or whatever. No in-game effect, but they just walk really silly. Well. Did you do well? I want to know in the comments below, what did you score? What was your total result? Did you score all of your points in one particular round? Did you ace the lot? What did you think of the impossible round? What did you think of the multiple choice? Is that a better way to do Quizhammer? I hope that you had a great fun doing this quiz. I had a lot of fun putting it together. I would love to make more Quizhammers in the future. So let's hit some more milestones, I think, and then we can make some more of these because they're great fun. I made this as a thank you to everyone to celebrate getting 10,000 subscribers here on the channel. I am really humbled that there's that many people who want to see more of the stuff that I'm putting out. I've got loads more history videos in the making. I've got loads more interviews that I've been conducting with legends from Games Workshop's past that informs those history videos, but I'm going to be sharing some of those dedicated interview videos as well. We've just started the new Jordan Sorceries GW Books Club, where we talk about the original 17 GW books that were released, starting with Ignorant Armies. You can see that on the channel right now. And patrons get to join me for a live stream discussion of each book every month. I'm just genuinely, I'm having so much fun spending this time in the worlds of Games Workshop and the worlds of tabletop and looking at all the history of these games that I love. and then sharing that with you guys. It's just, I have a tremendous amount of fun doing it. It's just great to be able to spend time doing this. So hopefully that you want to see more of this sort of stuff from me. I'm really committed to producing as much of this as I can and just getting into this kind of stuff. There's a lot of big plans for the channel, a lot of exciting stuff that I'm working on that I can't wait to share with you guys. So thank you for joining me on the journey so far. Thank you for watching. I am Jordan, and this is Jordan Sorcery. And here is one final question. Without going back and watching earlier footage in the video, do you know what book is missing from the shelf behind me? And if you do, should I make a history video on it?